Welcome, dear listener, to Sunbeam Across the Floorboards Gently. This is a quiet space, a sleep story crafted to help you unwind and drift peacefully into rest. If this gentle journey resonates with you, and you'd welcome more moments of calm like this, we invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Before we step into Arthur's tranquil day, we'll share a brief breathing guidance, a gentle transition to help soothe your mind and relax your body. Should you feel ready to begin the story immediately, please feel free to use the chapter timestamps provided in the description below. Now, allow yourself to settle more deeply into comfort. Feel the surfaces supporting you, the soft give of the mattress, the gentle enclosure of your blankets. Make any small adjustments needed to feel completely at ease, perhaps shifting your pillow just so. This time is purely for you, a quiet invitation to let the edges of the day soften and dissolve. Let the gentle idea of sunlight warming a quiet room, the soft tick of a clock, the aroma of brewing tea, prepare your mind for a peaceful experience. Let us begin with a gentle breath. Inhale slowly and softly through your nose, feeling the cool air entering, a quiet refreshment. And as you exhale even more slowly through your mouth, release a soft sigh, letting go of any tension you might be holding in your shoulder, your neck, your jaw. Feel your body grow a little heavier, more deeply relaxed with each breath. Imagine a gentle warmth, like morning sunlight spreading through your limbs, easing any tightness, inviting a sense of profound calm. Feel the weight of your body resting, fully supported, completely secure. If thoughts arise, simply notice them without judgment, like clouds drifting lazily across a vast, quiet sky, and gently return your awareness to the sensation of your breath or the quiet sound of my voice. There is nothing required of you now but to rest, to listen, to allow the gentle rhythm of the story to guide you towards sleep. Feel the peaceful stillness of Arthur's apartment settling around you, the quiet comfort of simple moments. Let this tranquility be your anchor as we begin our journey, following the soft light as the sunbeam begins its gentle passage across the floorboards. Chapter 1, The First Touch of Light. The deep gray stillness of the room held the lingering quiet of the night. Outside the tall window, the city slept on, its usual hum subdued to a distant, almost imperceptible murmur. Within the small apartment, Arthur Finch rested, adrift in the peaceful space between sleep and wakefulness. His breath was a slow, quiet tide, rising and falling in rhythm with the only other sound, the gentle, unwavering tick-tock of the old mantel clock. It wasn't a sound that disturbed, rather, it was the anchor of the silence, measuring the moments not in hurried beats, but in calm, deliberate intervals, each tick a soft affirmation of the peaceful passage of time. Gradually, a subtle shift occurred in the quality of the dimness. On the far wall, opposite the foot of his bed, the gray began to soften, infused with a faint luminescence like mother of pearl. It wasn't yet light, but the suggestion of it, the faintest harbinger of dawn, painting the plaster. Arthur watched it from beneath his eyelids, his body still, unwilling to break the spell of stillness. He drew in a slow breath, noticing the coolness of the air, the faint, clean scent of night lingering in the room. He released the breath even more slowly, a soft internal sigh of ease. There was no hurry. The morning would unfold at its own pace. He felt the comforting pressure of the quilt, its familiar weight, a gentle reassurance. Small stretch, a flexing of toes beneath the covers sent a ripple of waking sensation through him. Slowly, he pushed himself up. The quiet groan of the old bed springs a momentary punctuation in the silence. He swung his legs over the side, letting his bare feet meet the smooth, cool surface of the wooden floorboards. The sensation was grounding, a definite marker of the transition from rest to gentle activity. He sat for a moment on the edge of the bed, letting his senses adjust, feeling the quietude of the apartment embrace him. The pearlescent glow on the wall had intensified slightly, hinting now at the palest rose. His movements were quiet, almost gliding, as he padded across the floor to the small kitchenette. Years of solitary living had ingrained in him a respect for the quiet, an economy of motion that felt natural, unforced. He filled the kettle, the sound of running water a brief liquid murmur against the backdrop of the clock's ticking. The soft whoosh of the gas flame igniting was followed by its low, steady hum. Reaching for the familiar tea canister, he inhaled deeply as he opened it. The bright, citrusy notes of Earl Grey mingled with the underlying scent of the apartment old wood, paper, and the faint, indefinable aroma of peaceful habitation. He measured the dark, fragrant leaves into the small, waiting teapot, its glazed surface cool under his fingers. As the kettle began its gentle song, rising from a whisper to a soft boil, Arthur paused by the window. The street lamp below still cast its amber circle, but the surrounding darkness was receding, revealing the familiar shapes of buildings, the skeletal branches of the maple tree across the way, just beginning to define themselves against the lightening sky. And then he saw it. Near the baseboard, beneath the window, a slender line of the palest gold light lay upon the floor, tentative, almost shy, yet undeniably present, the first touch of the sunbeam. A quiet sense of recognition, of familiar welcome bloomed within him. The kettle sang its readiness. Turning, he poured the steaming water over the tea leaves, watching the steam wreathe upwards, carrying the bergamot fragrance more fully into the room. He placed the lid gently on the pot, a soft ceramic sigh. He would allow it time to steep, to fully release its warmth and flavor. Carrying the pot carefully, he placed it on the small table beside his armchair. The sunbeam, a delicate sliver of light, had crept a fraction further onto the worn pattern of the rug. The day had begun, not with a shout, but with a quiet offering of light. Chapter 2. The Warmth on Worn Wood. Time flowed gently onward, measured less by the clock's ticking and more by the steady westward creep of the sunbeam across the floor. By mid-morning, it had widened into a generous swath of warm golden light, illuminating the heart of the room. It lay across the aged floorboards like a tangible thing, a river of light, revealing every nuance of the wood, the soft sheen of the grain, the tiny scars and indentations left by time and use, the subtle variations in color from pale honey to deeper amber where the varnish had worn thin. Arthur sat nestled in his armchair, the faded green corduroy embracing him like an old friend. The chair was perfectly placed, a silent invitation to partake in the morning's warmth. A book lay open on his lap, its pages filled with dense text, but his eyes weren't following the lines. Instead, his gaze rested softly on the sunlit floor. He wasn't merely looking, he was feeling the light. He could perceive the gentle warmth radiating upwards, a subtle heat that seemed to seep into the very air, making the stillness feel more profound, more comforting. He extended one hand, palm down, into the bright patch, feeling the delicate warmth kiss his skin, a sensation as gentle and welcome as a soft touch. His teacup rested on the small table beside him, the Earl Grey within now cool, but still fragrant. He picked it up, the smooth, familiar curve fitting perfectly into his hand. The weight felt reassuring. He took a small sip, the cool liquid refreshing, the ghost of bergamot lingering on his palate. Setting the cup down with a barely audible chink, his attention returned to the interplay of light and texture before him. He noticed the soft halo the sunbeam created around the fibers of the simple woven rug, the way it caught the almost invisible down on his own woolen socks, making them seem momentarily luminous. These were the quiet details that composed his world, the small elements often overlooked. Seeing them bathed in this clear, unwavering light felt like a quiet rediscovery, a reminder of the inherent beauty in the utterly familiar. He leaned his head back against the high back of the armchair, the soft corduroy cushioning his neck. He closed his eyes, not to sleep, but to better sense the room around him. He felt the gentle pressure of the book on his lap, the solid support of the chair, the subtle warmth penetrating the fabric of his trousers where the light fell strongest. The sounds of the apartment were soft, intrinsic parts of the piece. The rhythmic tick-tock was the heartbeat of the stillness, an occasional creak from the floorboards above, the soft sigh of the building settling around him, the incredibly faint rustle as he shifted his weight. These were sounds that belonged, that deepened the quiet rather than broke it. From the street below, the city offered its muted soundtrack, the distant rumble of a tram, a car door closing, the faint echo of voices passing by. They were sounds of life happening elsewhere, buffered by distance and glass, serving only to emphasize the tranquility within his walls. He breathed slowly, deeply, feeling the air fill his lungs without effort, releasing it with a sigh so soft it was almost internal. A profound sense of calm washed over him, simple and pure. There was nothing to do, nowhere to be, no problem to solve. There was only this moment, the warmth, the light, the gentle sounds, the feeling of being completely present in his own quiet space. The sunbeam lay steady and true on the worn wood, a silent testament to the slow turning of the earth, a warm companion in the peaceful unfolding of the morning. He remained there, eyes closed, simply existing, held securely in the gentle embrace of light and quietude. Chapter 3. Dust Motes Dancing. As the sun climbed higher, the golden river of light shifted its course, moving from the floor to wash against the lower part of the wall opposite the window. It was midday. The light seemed softer now, less direct, diffused perhaps by the angle or a thin veil of high cloud. Arthur had moved to the small wooden chair at his table, a fresh cup of tea beside him, chamomile this time, its pale gold liquid steaming gently, releasing a faint apple-like fragrance into the still air. He wasn't engaged in any task. His focus was entirely captured by the sunbeam itself. For now, illuminated within that broad shaft of light, a hidden world came alive. Countless microscopic dust motes, usually invisible inhabitants of the air, performed a slow, mesmerizing ballet. They drifted and swirled, catching the light like tiny incandescent jewels. Arthur watched, captivated. Their movement seemed entirely random, yet possessed a strange inherent grace. They rose on currents too subtle to feel, paused, spiraled downwards, creating ever-shifting patterns against the backdrop of the plainly painted wall. It was a silent, intricate choreography, a microcosm revealed only by the sun's gentle spotlight. There was a deep, quiet pleasure in this observation. It asked nothing of him but his patient attention. His breathing naturally slowed, syncing with the unhurried dance before him. The tick-tock of the clock seemed to recede slightly, overshadowed by the visual poetry unfolding in the light. He lifted his teacup, feeling the comforting warmth spread through his fingers and palm. The smooth ceramic felt good against his skin. He took a slow, mindful sip, the delicate floral taste of chamomile soothing and gentle. The warmth spread downwards, a quiet balm. Outside, the city hummed with its midday energy, but the sounds remained comfortably distant. The rumble of traffic was a low, continuous vibration rather than distinct noises. Faint sounds, like the chime of a distant bell or the brief melody of an ice cream van, drifted in through the slightly open window, carried on the warm air. They didn't intrude. They simply added layers to the quiet soundscape, reminders of the world flowing onwards beyond his peaceful sanctuary. These sounds mingled pleasantly with the faint scent of his tea and the dry, papery smell of the room itself. His gaze drifted from the dancing motes to the wall they inhabited. The sunbeam revealed the subtle texture of the old plaster, the slight imperfections in the paintwork, traces of the room's history written in its very surfaces. He noticed how the light softened the edges of the simple fern print hanging there, its greens looking deeper, more vibrant in the wash of midday sun. It was like seeing the familiar through a gentler lens, appreciating its quiet character. A profound stillness settled within him, a feeling not of emptiness, but of quiet fullness. It was the presence of the light, the gentle movement, the subtle sounds and scents, all coalescing into a moment of pure, uncomplicated being. Time seemed to pause, or rather to flow differently, measured not in seconds or minutes, but in the slow drift of a dust mote, the gradual cooling of his tea. He felt no desire to move, to speak, to even think particularly hard. It was enough to simply sit, to watch, to breathe. He rested his hands lightly on the tabletop, feeling the smooth, cool wood beneath his palms. A momentary flicker in the light. Perhaps a cloud passing overhead caused the dust motes to momentarily dim, then brighten again. Just another small event in the quiet life of the room, observed, accepted, and allowed to pass. He took another sip of tea, immersed in the peaceful theater of the Sunbeam. Chapter 4. Shadows Lengthen Softly. The Sunbeam, having reached its peak upon the wall, began its slow, graceful descent. By late afternoon, it had retreated across the room, shrinking back toward the window, transforming into a long, attenuated ribbon of rich, antique gold. Its character had changed. The brightness softened, the warmth mellowed. In its wake, shadows stretched long and cool from the legs of the furniture, painting the floorboards in soft, amorphous shapes of gray and blue. The entire atmosphere of the apartment shifted, imbued with the tranquil, slightly melancholic beauty of the day's gentle decline. Arthur sat once more in his armchair, but he wasn't idle. Resting on his lap was the small, dark wooden box he occasionally tended to. In his hand, a soft, well-worn cloth held the faintest trace of beeswax, its sweet, natural scent released subtly into the air with each movement. He was polishing the box, his actions slow, deliberate, and rhythmic. His hand moved in smooth circular motions, following the intricate grain of the wood. The sound was barely audible, a soft, repetitive shush-shush against the wood, a quiet counterpoint to the clock's steady ticking. This task was less about achieving a gleaming finish and more about the tactile connection, the meditative quality of the repetitive motion. He felt the smooth coolness of the wood gradually warm under his touch. He paused frequently, lifting the box, turning it slowly, observing how the low-angled sunlight caught the polished surface, bringing out the depth and richness of the wood's pattern. There was a quiet satisfaction in this simple act of care, a grounding ritual that connected him to the object and the present moment. The faint scent of beeswax filled the air immediately around him, a clean, sweet fragrance that spoke of preservation and gentle attention. The narrowed sunbeam now lay across the windowsill, illuminating the small collection of objects Arthur kept there, a few smooth gray stones gathered from some forgotten shore, a small, tightly closed pine cone, and a terracotta pot housing a resilient spider plant. The light caught the delicate arching leaves of the plant, making their green stripes vivid, revealing the fine network of veins within. Arthur's gaze rested there for a moment, appreciating the silent, persistent life reaching toward the fading light. The air in the room felt calm, settled, holding the quiet anticipation of evening. He became aware of the changing quality of the shadows, how they softened sharp corners, lent a sense of depth and mystery to familiar objects. The bookshelf, laden with its companions of print and paper, seemed to recede slightly, its contents held in respectful dimness. The armchair itself felt more enclosing, a cozy haven against the slowly gathering dusk. Outside, the sounds of the city were also softening. The frantic pace of midday had eased. Voices were lower, traffic less insistent. He heard the gentle cooing of pigeons settling on a nearby roof, the rustle of leaves in the maple tree stirred by a gentle breeze, sounds that spoke of the day winding down. Arthur continued his polishing, his breathing slow and even, his mind quiet. Gentle thoughts, like echoes of the day's observations, drifted through his awareness, but didn't anchor themselves. He felt the solid weight of the box, the soft texture of the cloth, the unwavering support of the chair. He could still feel a residual warmth emanating from the floor where the sunbeam had rested longest, a subtle reminder of the day's brightness. The room felt steeped in a peaceful transition, letting go of the day's light with grace. The sunbeam dwindled further, its golden touch becoming ever more fleeting, preparing to relinquish the room entirely to the soft embrace of twilight. With a final gentle wipe, Arthur folded the cloth, placed it carefully inside the box, closed the lid with a soft click, and returned the small treasure to its place on the shelf. His movements were serene, imbued with the quiet calm of the late afternoon. Chapter 5. The Last Golden Trace. Twilight deepened, gathering like soft gray velvet in the corners of the room. The sharp definition of objects blurred, melting into gentle silhouettes against the fading light from the window. The sunbeam, Arthur's faithful companion throughout the day, had completed its journey across his small domain. All that remained was a faint, ethereal patch of warm gold high on the wall near the ceiling, a final delicate signature of the departed sun. Arthur stood near the window, not gazing out at the darkening street, but watching this last vestige of daylight with quiet attention. He felt no sense of loss as it faded, only a peaceful recognition of the day's natural conclusion. He had witnessed its arc, felt its presence, appreciated the small wonders it revealed. Its withdrawal felt right, orderly, part of a cycle as gentle and inevitable as his own breathing. He watched as the golden hue softened, diluted, losing its warmth, until it finally merged imperceptibly with the deepening gray of the wall, leaving no trace behind. The natural light had fully yielded. Turning from the window, Arthur moved toward the small table lamp positioned beside his armchair. His fingers found the cool, smooth surface of the switch. A quiet click, surprisingly distinct in the profound stillness, broke the silence for just an instant. Immediately, a pool of soft, warm light bloomed in the room, banishing the deeper shadows around the chair and the nearby bookshelf. It wasn't the pervasive clarity of sunlight, but a contained, intimate glow, creating a haven of warmth within the surrounding dimness. The lamplight reflected gently on the spines of his books, making them seem like quiet invitations, and cast a soft sheen on the polished surface of the wooden box on the shelf. The character of the room transformed instantly. It felt smaller, cozier, more inwardly focused. The world outside, now just a collection of distant lights and muted sounds, seemed to recede further. The tick-tock of the mantel clock reclaimed its gentle prominence, a steady, reassuring rhythm in the heart of the quiet. Arthur walked towards the kitchenette, his footsteps making soft sounds on the floorboards. He began the simple, familiar motions of preparing his supper. The quiet clink of a bowl against the counter, the soft thud of a knife slicing through a yielding vegetable, the gentle hiss as something met the warmth of a pan on the stove. These sounds wove themselves into the fabric of the evening silence, comforting and purposeful. A simple, savory aroma began to unfurl, gradually filling the apartment. Perhaps the gentle fragrance of herbs mingling with simmering broth, or the comforting smell of warming bread. It was the scent of nourishment, of quiet self-sufficiency, of the day drawing to a peaceful close. Arthur moved with unhurried mindfulness, his attention focused on the textures, the sounds, the smells of his simple task. These small rituals were anchors, grounding him gently in the present moment, marking the transition from the observations of the day to the repose of the evening. Later, seated at his table, bathed in the warm circle of lamplight, Arthur ate his simple meal. The food was warm, nourishing, and he savored each bite slowly, consciously. The day felt complete, though outwardly uneventful. It had been inwardly rich with quiet perception, with the appreciation of light and shadow, warmth and texture. The memory of the Sunbeam's journey wasn't a sharp recollection, but a lingering feeling, a residue of warmth, stillness, and gentle wonder. He felt the solidness of the chair beneath him, the pleasant warmth spreading through his body from the food. The lamplight created soft halos around the simple objects on his table, the water glass catching a gleam, the earthenware plate feeling solid and real. When he finished, the quietness settled around him again, deep and embracing. He felt a peaceful readiness for the evening hours, perhaps to read a little, or maybe just to sit and listen to the clock, allowing the stillness to seep deeper into his being. The sunbeam's physical presence was gone, but the tranquility it had illuminated remained, a gentle current flowing within him. He rose and carried his plate to the sink, the sound of running water a soft cascade in the quiet room as he rinsed it clean. The day had closed its shutters gently, leaving behind only peace and the quiet promise of rest.